Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we have determined that we have a problem. I mean, we already knew that, but we know what the actual problem is right now. We used this hex here, and we output this debug information to tell us that it was connected to 25, 60, 27 on this biome hex, but that this was connecting not to this world hex in the proper position of 1010, but to this world hex in the proper position of 1010. Which explains entirely why the pathfinding is failing, because there's probably not going to be routes to places if they're not connecting properly. So the question is, why is position 26, at any rate, failing this check? And by extension, are the others failing this check? Well, I have no idea what this guy's even supposed to connect to. So, there's that. Or this guy here. Like, hypothetically, what do they connect to? I don't know. Let's find out what they currently connect to. This guy just doesn't. 20, 66, 22, 37. So, let's see here. This is 22. This is 66. This is 20. But it connects to 37. It's 21. Which one is 37? That's this guy. So it just loops around to here. Well, that's not right. Oh, I bet it connects to 37, like, either here or here, in a really weird way. Yeah, probably. Anyway, we will tackle these weird ones later. As of right now, I'm much more concerned about getting the pathfinding functional, even if it won't necessarily make sense. So, in case 26, that's the one we are in right now. If we are in up hex, if column -1 is less than 0, there's nothing to be done here. We're going off the map. Else, we do this. So the question is, are we in an up hex? Let's find out. We are in this hex right here. So this row is up hexes. Or rather, this column is up hexes. Okay. How are we calculating up hexes? We're just checking against the first. Okay, that's easy enough. I was thinking we could do a remainder check, but this is fine. That's not a problem. Okay, so we are indeed in up hex here, so we should be in here. If column -1 is less than 0, or row +1 equals manager.map.count, there's nothing to be done here, we're going off map. So, we know that this is wrong. What we did before was in the hex manager, we tried swapping the rows and columns, and that didn't fix anything. But I'm going to try that once more. I don't think that'll fix anything, but it certainly will change things. Now, the other problem here is that I believe this is already... Yeah, this is accessing this row column, when it actually should be accessing it column row, now that I think about it. Right? It builds... Hang on, it builds this way. So it builds columns, and it iterates through... Just double check this. So... Yeah, I would be rows and J would be columns. So that's correct. But here, J is map width. That's very confusing. Okay, let's just run this with I and J swapped. I don't think it's going to fix anything at all, but I'm curious to see what exactly that does. Very curious indeed, in fact. Come on. Gotta love that sweet, sweet loading time. I mean, most players of this game would not, in fact, be, you know, doing this so frequently. So, let's come on in here, and let's just check, once again, Hex 26. Which is apparently not connected at all. That's weird. Let's try up here. That one is. Okay. So, we've got, come on. 26 connected to 25, 27, and 60, and then it's connected to World Hex 610. That one's 512. 563, 561. 610 is this one. So that's very not right. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So, we then need to go in, put this back, because I think this was actually right. I think we just need to be looking at our connective tissue here and being like, okay, we need to rethink this. So, case 10 is, of course, map hex 10, which is really building hex 10. And that would be connecting down here, right? Let's just go to the top view so that we can see. We'll just assume for now that these are world hexes. They aren't, but for the purposes of demonstration, we'll assume that they are. So that should be connecting down here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and run this actually real quick. Okay, so we can actually see this. And I'm just going to go ahead and set the Y position of this so that we can sort of see this and set the scale up as well. There. That'll revert back, but that's just so that we can see what's going on here. So, we are in Hex 10 right now. We are in position 0. So, Hex index is 0. We want to connect to Hex index 50. So what we want to do, we are in position 0, 0 here. We want to connect to position row 0, column 1. So we want to connect to 0 plus 1. So column plus 1. That is correct. For an up hex. For a down hex, of course, would be here connecting to here, or a little bit more clearly, here connecting to here, which would go up a row, or down a row. Yep. Down a row, and up a column. So yeah, that appears to be right. So the question is, why isn't that working? It's grabbing the wrong world hex, for sure. We know that for a fact. I'm gonna stop this run here and let that revert back while we try to puzzle this over. So it's grabbing the wrong world hex in world hex other hex here. We know this to be an absolute fact. The question is, why? If we go into the hex manager, we already do know for a fact that I is rows, J is columns. From what I can tell, this should be correct as is. If column plus 1 equals manager.map row.count. So we iterate the column. Is the row... Yeah, that should be right. There isn't, I think, a problem with there being... with us incrementing the column and then checking against the row count, because the row list is the list of column. So that should be fine. The other thing we could do is we could code in a get nearest world hex that isn't a world hex that we pass in. So essentially a get nearest hex that we then pass in a world hex. And then just forego all of this that's going on here. That is a potential possibility. And then we wouldn't need this switch statement at all, theoretically. Or whether we were in up hex, technically. So essentially what we'd want to do is a public world hex. We'd want to return the world hex. Get nearest world hex exclusion. And then we would say vector3 position. And then world hex exclusion. Like that. And then the question is, we would essentially want to do the same thing as get nearest hex to grab the nearest world hex. So we'd want to do this same thing. So if collision.gameObject.tag equals world hex and collision.gameObject.getComponent world hex is not equal to exclusion, then we would do this and then just return nearest hex. Now that's not going to be a super fast thing because we have to do the get component call. But that shouldn't be too bad. Especially since we're only calling this in the startup. And it might actually be faster than doing all this switch stuff. Or close to it. Probably not, but... honestly, we can just kind of comment out everything within this else block. So like, here. Nope. To here. Okay. And then theoretically what we could do is say world hex other hex equals manager.get world hex get nearest world hex exclusion, and then we would pass in transform.position. Or actually, no, we would pass in biome hexes I. Well, we need to go from the building. So we do need a reference to our building, which we do have, new building dot location. So new building, this is a building. So we want to do something along the lines of manager.get. I want get building position. Get building hex position. Here we go. We pass in the int3, so we pass in new building dot location. And then we want to pass in our world hex exclusion, which we can just do with this. So we just pass that in. And then our int3 neighbor would be equal to new int3. What? We don't need a global namespace there. What are you doing, Visual Studio? Are you drunk? New int3 other hex.hex index. And then this would be essentially this, which we do actually need a switch statement for. So what we could do is we could just copy this and then bring back this switch statement, but we don't need to know whether we're in up hex or not anymore. And a lot of this can be commented out. At least until we figure out that this is working. Okay, so if up hex, we don't need to do any of this. All we need to do is replace world hex other hex here. Like that. And actually I am going to go ahead and delete this for now. And then we don't need this else statement here. And I'm just going to tab these in. Like that. That's pretty much all we need. So we can then put in that. The question is, why is this having issues now? What's going on here? Case 15. Oh, it's because we don't need to declare these. There we go. We'll just copy this now. And then, you know, it'd probably be easier just to copy all of this and say, this one's in 37. So 37 and 37, right? 37? 37. Okay. And then this one here is in 32. Wait, 32 connects to itself? That's not right. That should be 15. Well, that's part of our problem right there. Okay, so that should be 15, because 15 connects to 32. And then this should be 21, and indeed it appears to be. So then we can just do that. Okay. And now we can test to see if this works. However, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we'll test this. See you all then.